Thanks for coming along to this session. Is it just to get in from the rain, which we can hear so well outside? So we're going to be talking a little bit about audio challenges, so hopefully the table football and the rain won't interfere with the conversations today. So the formal title of this presentation is called Evolving the AV Industry. I'm going to be talking more about how we, as an industry, can collaborate more closely with the with IT functions. I kind of thought that sounded a little bit boring, and particularly when you read the abstract, which I'm not going to go through. You'll be pleased to know it sounds even more dull. And I thought, okay, well, this is Valentine's week. Maybe we could, sex up the title a little bit. You know, AV and IT have been dating for a while. When are they going to take the next step? And then my wife pointed out to me, I've been married 20 years, and what do I know about dating? So, don't develop that theme too much. And then this week, of course, we have the joys of coronavirus, and so dating is definitely out of the question, face masks or not. So basically what we're going to try to do is talk about what some of the challenges that IT departments are having in the current, in the modern enterprise. You know, I think as we know for a while, it's been a trend that more and more are taking on responsibility for technical issues, and the days of perhaps the separate AV department doing all sorts of mysterious things are in the decline, and it is being merged into a function within the overall information technology group. So now, obviously, SHURE, I think, are reasonably well known for making microphones and for being an audio company. So, of course, we have a vested interest in saying, okay, good quality audio is essential and it's required throughout rooms. You know, that's a given that we're going to say that. But also, what we're finding is that AV conferencing and so on is being spread into more and more places, and this is actually creating new challenges. I mean, just a few examples here. We have a huddle room with concrete walls, a beautiful glass-walled boardroom, which acoustically must be an absolute nightmare. And IT departments are struggling. How can they deliver premium audio into this variety of different places? So what we're finding, and I'll come a bit more onto this in terms of the empirical data that we're seeing around this, is that in actual fact poor audio is still the norm in the majority of rooms in the enterprise. Now, there are obviously very many progressive organizations who are explicitly trying to address this, but if you kind of look at the pyramid of the types of spaces, traditionally the industry has been focused on improving the audio in those larger, more complex spaces, the boardroom, the multi-purpose integrated space, and so on. And the majority of rooms, the millions of rooms which come up for refresh every year, which have a lower budget associated with them, are tending to have to be almost like the unloved stepchild and get poorer quality audio. So what we want to do is help make sure that these higher quality audio solutions aren't just limited to the top of the pyramid, and that lower cost and easy to install solutions in the lower end rooms can be improved as well. And so that this paradigm of audio quality declining as the cost and effort being associated with spaces, that can be changed as well. So kind of this is the general mix at the moment, which is sort of following the typical 80-20 rule. So what we're seeing is that more and more technical issues are being escalated to the IT departments, and that a reasonably large number, something in the region of 40%, are getting these issues on a very frequent basis. So what we've done at SHURE, and we've just published this on Tuesday, is actually a new piece of research called the Current and Future State of Meetings, where we commissioned an independent research agency to analyse both end users and IT departments and talk about some of the issues and topics which they're seeing. It came out with some quite interesting numbers. I'll touch on a few of those here, but the report is reasonably extensive. There's a lot more detail. That's all freely available from our website to access at the moment. So so there's lots of innovation happening. There's a much increased rollout of virtual meetings. Something like the vast majority of people are reporting they've got online meetings on a daily basis, and these familiar technologies issues are still persisting. So let's have a look at some of those. Top 5 meeting frustrations. 96% in this research said that they were getting problems or issues of some kind. Some of those technical difficulties. That's a very big bucket, but for them, the end users, it's just not working. There's something wrong. 51% reporting background noise, maybe rain on the roof or indeed the table football going on outside in your multi-purpose office. 43% reporting echoing, and that falls into two types. There's actually the acoustical reverb in the room, as well as the classic feedback where the microphone is picking up the speaker. 40% saying they're missing part of the conversation if they can't hear everything going on, and 40% saying they can't hear everybody in the room. And again, people who are out of range of the microphones or in a different space. So typical stuff. We probably all know this, but again, it's empirical data. And then again, of the hundreds of people we surveyed, the technical department said on average they were supporting 40 rooms, and half of them saying they're having to resolve issues with conferencing software on a weekly basis, and 43% of IT departments, tech departments, saying they're having to support dealing with poor quality audio issues on a weekly basis as well. So this is simply not good enough. So what can we as the AV industry do to help IT departments with this? Well, firstly, AV buyers are getting dragged into this. They're now getting KPIs for virtual meetings, and they're being picked up on just because they buy something because it's the cheapest or whatever. That isn't necessarily the right solution, and effectively they're getting blowback because of the need to encompass better quality into the selections that they're making. So 3 out of 4 AV buyers expect they're going to have to increase their budgets to resolve these issues. That's obviously good news for us in the AV industry, but obviously that means also there's going to be a lot more laser focus in terms of what's being chosen, what's being specified, and the considerations around that. And that doesn't fall just into the hardware devices, also in terms of the software and the types of applications which are being used to deliver those that conferencing as well too. So in terms of what do IT teams want, this is some of the feedback we've been getting. Firstly, they want higher reliability. So they want better performance and consistency and less speciality hardware, i.e. they want to have IT-centric workflows and AV conferencing to be treated just like any other type of business application, business service. They want to reduce deployment and maintenance efforts. I mean, effectively, they want the problems to go away. As you can imagine, if you're trying to resource an ID department and you're having to respond to, call-outs on a daily or weekly basis to resolve issues, that's not good for them. And I'm sure some of us have all heard anecdotes about in terms of some of the large financial institutions where, there can be VPs who are between them earning tens of millions of dollars a year. The cost to a company if they can't actually deliver have their meetings, perform in front of clients can be huge, and that has a big blowback onto the IT department, the AV department, and ultimately the buyers and the vendors. They want to be able to offer high quality audio into more places. So how can we get good quality audio from just being in the C-suite, those premium spaces, and actually federate it out through more of the organization on a consistent and scalable standard. And also they want capable AV partners, people who can actually come and talk to them in IT language rather than some strange alien tongue called AV. So what do AV providers want, looking at it from the other side of the table? Okay, well, AV providers want to be able to work more efficiently. I think we've all heard about the scalability challenges that the integrators are suffering at the moment in terms of finding the right talent, finding a greater diversity of talent, having consistent global reach of their expertise in order to deliver more projects in a shorter time with fewer callbacks. This is a very real issue systems integrators are facing. They want to be able to support increased project volume. Now, clearly, there are more and more of these kind of all-in-one plug-and-play types devices which are being rolled out. But integrators the AV specialists want to be able to actually address that as well, so that they can also win the larger scale, more sophisticated opportunities as well. Global consistency, again, we hear this from our partners and people like the GPA and the PSNI and AV user group and so on, about how companies want to have globally consistent standards all around the world. So whether someone is conferencing from Beijing or from Shanghai or from Hyderabad or London or Chicago, that everything works in a consistent manner, and that there's interoperability between all of these platforms. And lastly, of course, they want to improve client relationships. There's the old saying, getting new customers is sexy, but keeping old ones is smart. And people want to have long-term, enduring relationships. So 20-year marriages rather than lots of dating. So what are some of the things that the researchers told us that we think that AV providers can do to help move in this direction? So our stance on this is that effectively, and this may not be very popular, but we believe that the AV industry and AV vendors need to change, move in the direction of the IT departments rather than the other way around, where we try to actually educate IT in the world of AV per se. So educate. Firstly, we do need to help IT departments understand what the technical challenges are in virtual meetings, so that they can actually focus on solving the problems, those things which can have the biggest impacts on productivity. So, not just reporting back, okay, the audio is no good, but a little bit more specificity about what the actual challenges are. We've actually launched an initiative to help with that. So I mentioned the research, which is available on our site as well. We've actually also published a whole group of resources which are free for anybody and everybody to access and download, which you can get from the SHURE website under the banner of Make Connections Feel Effortless. Because again, we think it's in the interest of the AV vendors, AV integrators, as well as the IT departments to be able to actually come together and talk the same language, and so there's a lot of free resources there in terms of white papers and educational material and so on. So, second piece of advice, consult. So kind of act, less like an installer, just people going into hang and bang, as they say, but actually work more like a strategic consultant, actually become very intimate and close to the end customer and provide them advice, become the trusted advisor, actually help them with their issues and challenges, understand their workflows and understand the projects which they're trying to deploy. Also don't think about actually the opportunity being let's provide some technology, do a sale, walk away, sort of like a brush fire approach to it. Actually think about sharing outcomes. So again, transition to AV as a service, managed services models, actually having a stake in terms of the end customer's success. Also, there is still huge value in terms of those more complex projects, those more challenging issues. But going back to this point about the scarcity of talent and trained talent, make sure that those guys are focused on those elite or more challenging opportunities where those traditional AV skills come in, rather than getting involved in, shall we say, the more routine and mundane enablement of hundreds of huddle rooms. Adaptation. So again, adopting an IT-centric mentality, adapting to the IT processes, the IT workflows. Again, just to talk about kind of what SHURE is doing for this, we're actually moving in this direction as well in terms of actually trying to effectively reduce the amount of AV gear which is necessary and actually bring more of the audio processing into the pure software domain and actually implement those IT-centric workflows. So effectively, the AV industry can be criticised in terms of it's actually not been setting the trend. It now needs to follow the trend and actually, or I say not criticise. It's kind of like a direction which we think needs to be followed. Also, thinking about these other types of devices which we're seeing more and more of being deployed. So in this case, a ThinkSmart from Lenovo, Intel NUCs, and so on. Actually, how can these types of devices be incorporated more into the AV, into the audio flow as well? So some of you may have seen that this week. We've actually deployed a new piece of software called IntelliMix Room, which can actually sit on these devices and provides all the audio processing rather than being a separate legacy AV device. So do pop along and see this at the booth, and also hopefully find out a little bit more about how we can help with this transition into talking about IT. Okay, I'm afraid we've raced through that quite quickly, but thank you very much indeed.